Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Joe Chillin' Love. Here with episode number 138 on the podcast for you guys of Sports Overview Topics. Not as much wrapped up in this episode as compared to last, but still a very good amount leading towards the week of sports as we shift gears into the season. But some interesting turnouts from this weekend. UFC 284 happened on Saturday, and it's almost a quick turnaround. UFC 285 will take place in two and a half weeks. But featuring John Jones' return. Get a quick look towards that, as well as going over some of the title fights. Or going over the title fights that happened on 284. The Super Bowl happened yesterday between the Chiefs and Eagles. Was a heck of a game, which was basically ended by a penalty holding call, which talk about that, but there's that. Kevin Durant to the Suns, I touch upon that as it literally happened like not long after my last episode, so in that as well. But first and foremost, I want to give thoughts and well wishes out to the Lerner family. Ted Lerner, the owner, or I guess you can say former owner, technically, of the Washington Nationals, who purchased the team in 2006, and they literally won the World Series on his 94th birthday. And there 2 weeks later hosting the trophy. Now, in recent years, he has given power and control to his son, Mark, for control of the franchise. But nonetheless, thoughts and well wishes to Mark, and all of the Lerner family, Nationals family, DC, Washington. I mean, a man that grew up in Washington, literally in DC, and you wound up purchasing a franchise from your home, and you see it win the end-all be-all, which was the World Series a few years ago, and credit to him. Fortunately, passed away, but 97, a good bulk of life. So, thoughts are out with the Lerner family, and condolences all around, and prayers. But yeah, for Washington. Kevin Durant. Now, the news literally broke out shortly after I uploaded my episode, or was trying to upload it, for episode 137, and I talked about Kyrie, and then this whole big trade sparks between the Suns and the Brooklyn Nets. Excuse me. As the Suns sent multiple firsts, Cameron Johnson, Mikal Bridges, and Jay Crowder, who later then was basically bought and signed to the Milwaukee Bucks. But nonetheless, for Kevin Durant and TJ Warren, who's not a bad pickup as well. But yeah, this is a dilemma that both teams are going to face. Mavericks and the Suns. You give up some of your best defensive pieces and Finney Smith and Mikal Bridges in order to get better offensively and work your way more towards the championship. And for the Mavericks getting Kyrie, Suns getting KD. Now, the Suns, despite that, we'll have to wait, first of all, because it sounds like KD will make his Suns debut likely after the All-Star break, which is next week or this weekend. So, yeah, have to wait a little bit. But on the flip side, Suns were still able to keep Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Chris Paul, which, like it or not, are really their main three. And now you add Kevin Durant to the mix. So basically, the way it appears, you got your main two scorers and Kevin Durant and now Devin Booker. And you got DeAndre Ayton, who's a stud. His plate will get shortened. Luckily, there will be less on his plate. And for Chris Paul, because we've seen more and more since they lost to the NBA Finals against the Bucks that Chris Paul is becoming more and more of a distributor, and with Kevin Durant added to the mix, it seems like more Chris Paul is going to be indeed just that and be more of a leadership role for the Suns. So, look, I'm so favoring a healthy Denver Nuggets team, but I mean, if all is said and done, and we get a Denver Phoenix Western Conference Finals, that'll be just off the chains. Good. Now, the Suns are also in a precarious situation because they're currently the 5th seed, if I'm not mistaken. The 5th seed, and if they fall, it's going to be a bit till we see Kevin Durant. So, if they don't stay the course and they fall into that 7th spot, then right away they're going to have to worry about being in the play-in. And the last thing you want when you're give up much assets in a trade like this is to have to play for your playoff lives even more. So, but could be a good thing. We'll see. But the jury's still out for me on this move because, Bridges and Johnson, 2 really good role guys. And I mean, we have to give credit for Brooklyn. They are getting these guys, Bridges, Dinwiddie, they still got Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas. They got some guys. They just need a stud, like a superstar, I think would really. They got pieces, so curious to see, but good move, I guess, for Phoenix. NFL Honors was Thursday, and for the most part, I'd say they mostly got it right for the awards. First, starting off with Brian Daboll winning Coach of the Year. 5 finalists were Nick Sirianni, Kyle Shanahan, Daboll, Sean McDermott, and one other coach. But nonetheless, Doug Pearson, which, had his own right. Look, if the Lions had somehow made the playoffs, then my vote would have been shoo-in for Dan Campbell. And I bet he would have been a finalist, of course, had the Lions made the playoffs. But, Daboll took a team. Now, I get it that, the team with the best record and the best overall team was the Eagles. But I think considering that roster and compared to those 5 teams, I think we can all agree that was the worst of the 5. And what Brian Daboll, Wink Martindale, and Mike Kafka, among others, were able to do Now, there are a bunch of injuries as well, but what they were able to do with that roster was certainly, bar none, getting it to the playoffs, starting off 6-1, 7-2. They did have a skid, but managed to make the playoffs. They beat the Vikings first round of the playoffs, and unfortunately were starched by the Eagles. But I mean, what a first season for Ryan Daboll and the G-Men. And I'd say for Giants fans and on the Big Apple, your future is bright. Your future is bright with Brian Daboll. Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa. I mean, can't really get an argument from me. I mean, guy was just a problem all year around. Now, I get Michael Parsons was a stud and he was on a tear for a while, but as far as consistency, we can agree that Bosa really took the cake. And I mean, for a while, it seemed like it was up in the air for a bit. You know, it's like, I thought Quinn Williams had an outside shot. Matt Judon as well. He's finished with over 15. Myles Garrett finished with 16. Hassan Reddick, he had a hell of a year. 16.5 sacks in the regular season. But I mean, Nick Bosa is going to really make a solid case for himself to be a very rich guy in the offseason with a new contract from the 49ers, which I would be stunned. I mean, I would be stunned if they let him walk for any sort of reason. Any sort. This is why the QB situation is very important. In the 49ers, because you're obviously going to let Jimmy G walk. And Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, both QBs are on rookie contracts. So, right off the bat, you're not really paying either guy. And, you know, it gives you a chance to pay a guy like Bosa. And we'll see. You gotta keep your best players happy. So, but kudos for Joey Bosa's younger brother, Nick. Kudos to him. Rookies of the year. I mean, I was very glad that Garrett Wilson, well, both rookies were Jets. So, hats off to the Jets and Joe Douglas for their great drafting this year. Garrett Wilson, who had over 1,000 yards receiving with 3 QBs, Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White. Really a testament. And, you know, Kent Walker, Breece Hall both look like they're on their way Brees Hall obviously suffered that injury. Kenneth Walker, his production kind of took a hit as well, kind of like Michael Parsons later in the year. And, credit to Garrett Wilson. Chris Olave deserves some love as well, over 1,000 yards with the Saints. But credit to Garrett Wilson from Ohio State, so kudos to him. Sauce Gardner, this was, when I looked at the finalists, this was by far the closest, I think, of the awards. Because, look, Sauce Gardner was great all year and has already established himself as one of the best corners in the league. Tariq Woolen had a great job, an amazing job this year with the Seahawks, and one of the reasons why they just were very fun this year, a great story this year. And Aiden Hutchinson. Hutchinson had a very solid first year, 9.5 sacks. Yes, he did have that great last game of the season versus the Packers, but along the way, solid season. 9.5 sacks, 3 picks. Very athletic for a big guy. With J.J. Watt retiring, he kind of reminds me could be the next really J.J. Watt. And because they got the luck, they got the same kind of attributes. We'll see. We'll see, but nonetheless, great for a sauce. Great for a sauce. Offense player of the year, Justin Jefferson. The offense player of the year has basically become the second place award for the MVP, simply because the MVP has been such a quarterback driven award mostly as of late. But Jefferson obviously had another brilliant year. He did. It's becoming a notion or a sentiment throughout this video and talking about these awards, but did really good for throughout the year, and then the last few games he kind of took a hit. But Jefferson had a very good year, very good. Because it was basically either him or Tyreek Hill. But yeah, very solid, over 1,800 yards. Cool stud. Jefferson. Comeback player of the year. Now, I know people are very suspect about this award because of what it means and just this sentiment behind the award. But Geno Smith, and I did pretty much the same way that Ryan Tannehill won in 2019. which I mean, Teno had a very good year, 2019. This season, Geno Smith had a very good year, but the way the comeback, it just frustrates people. Because, I mean, Saquon has had some injury-loaded years. And we saw him be healthy. And he had a very fun year as well. Christian McCaffrey, I mean, had a great year as well. So I get why people are frustrated. But it is what it is. Can you really be surprised by anything the NFL does? Just can't. And then MVP, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, people thought for a bit, it could have been Josh Allen. That obviously took a dip in the middle of the year. Jalen Hurts was obviously steady throughout the year. And then a shoulder injury, Patrick Mahomes saw all year. So Joe Burrow was obviously he was coming up the ranks more and more when they were in that stretch after Halloween. But, as far as consistency, Patrick Mahomes really was there out of all 5 candidates throughout the year. I mean, if Justin Jefferson was able to get 2K, then maybe he had a case, considering how well the Vikings did going into the playoffs. But, Mahomes was consistency all year long. So there's that. So go over the Super Bowl and both teams going forward before going to UFC 284 really quick. So not much to be said, but Super Bowl 57 was definitely a ride Sunday. 38-35 was one heck of a game to end the football season for the NFL officially for a couple months as we gear towards now combine and draft season. As we gear towards the next season. But yeah. So some storylines, they tried to bolster the storylines best they could. But really, the two ones that really stood out were, the Andy Reid Bowl. Andy Reid versus the team that fired him over a decade ago, the Eagles, and the Kelsey Bowl. Jason Kelsey, the Hall of Fame center for the Eagles, against his brother on the other side, Travis, who is the future Hall of Fame tight end of the Chiefs. But yeah, this was just it was a unique game, rather, in the sense that Philly looked to be in control early. I mean, it was 14-7. Chiefs had missed a field goal. They were being aggressive. The Eagles were. And it looked like they were going to pounce on to make it an ugly game. But then in one fell swoop, Jalen Hurts, when he tries to make a move, fumbles the ball, and Nick Bowen, who, again, he and Fosad Olakon, I don't get how both guys didn't make the Pro Bowl. I don't get it. Now, Bowen obviously made the Super Bowl, so he would have a replacement, but still. Nonetheless, Bolton, who's been active all season, recovered lost football and returned it for a touchdown, and then instead of possibly making a 2-score game, now in one swoop the Chiefs tie it 14-all, but now the Eagles were able to regrasp the momentum late in the first half somewhat, and they took a 10-0 lead, or took a 10-point lead into halftime, 24-14. And then after a long but unique Rihanna halftime performance, we get the second half, and then Chiefs made adjustments and they were able to fire back. In which they got a touchdown to put pressure on the Eagles, and then, all of a sudden, it was 27-21. And then the Chiefs were marching on the field. Mahomes, we were again worried about his ankle. They obviously gave him something at halftime. But yeah, Mahomes was able to run the ball. Pretty much it was either Kelsey or Juju or Mahomes running. As far as the passing game that hurt Philly, that they weren't just able to stop. George Kittle was asked in an interview about his thoughts about the game. The great tight end for the 49ers. And he basically said that Philly has no chance if Travis Kelce has a huge game. And Travis had a solid game pretty much almost any time you looked up. Travis was open. And, he connected. Pacheco had a very good game running the ball. He has really gotten to my liking more and more throughout the year as a rookie. I mean, he's just going to get better and better. And that's what I like to see. But yeah, he had a very good day. And then these two touchdown plays really got the Eagles and really where Andy Reid kind of shined. Because you don't have big receivers. Besides Kelsey, you don't really have big receivers. I mean, Valdez-Scantling saw, but he was basically nowhere to be found in the game. So, using that speed, you had on 2 touchdown plays, you had Kadarius Toney run in and run back out on a swift touchdown play, wide open. The Eagles' defense was confused. They shifted to the other way, followed Kelsey all the way over, and left Toney wide open. And he walked in for a touchdown, which Mahomes connected. The other way, after a long touchdown return by Pacheco, they go the other way with Sky Moore. Connected as well. 35-27. Now, the Eagles did fire back. Let down touchdown drive. 2-point conversion. Tie it at 35 all with 5 minutes left. But Chiefs were still able to methodically move the ball. And, having to call a timeout in the third quarter ultimately hurt them, the Eagles. And, yeah. Because with the way they managed their time and now basically at the end, because it's going to be talked about for a number of days and probably weeks. The holding call by James Bradbury, which ultimately sealed the game for the Chiefs. With less than 2 minutes to go, it's a third down. Chiefs are in field goal range. It's like, okay, Philly needs a stop to get time to presumably tie the game. Because Chiefs are in field goal range looking to go up 38-35. So, Juju's lined up one-on-one with James Bradbury. Very good matchup. And a fade route. So, they throw on third down. It's incomplete. And you're thinking, okay. And I think what frustrates people, again, like I mentioned about the Chiefs-Bengals game, the inconsistency of the calls. The inconsistency. I mean, we barely heard any flags from both sides all game. And then when it matters most, a flag is thrown and ultimately it pretty much decides the game. Which what frustrates, people that I've been seeing pretty much all social media, etc. But yeah. So instead of getting a third down stop, having about a minute and a half left to presumably tie the game, if not take the lead, and probably win, with having a timeout because they threw it, Mahomes saw it, pointed out, we could tell, you know, Bradbury held Juju, and it was called, and pretty much Chiefs could ice it, and they kicked the field goal with 8 seconds to go, and there was that on a so-so field, a very so-so field at State Farm Arena. I mean, Roger Goodell, they gotta do something with these fields. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, in Super Bowl 56, OBJ has not played a game since because he tore his ACL on turf at SoFi. And now, after if you want to know why there were no sacks, pretty much look at how bad the turf was, or the field was. I mean, really. You had two of the best sack teams and no pressure, really. Confusing. But nonetheless, Eagles got back, 8 seconds left. Jalen Hurts' Hail Mary attempt was short, very short. And Chiefs held on to win. Andy Reid got his sweet revenge against a team that, again, let him loose, gave him his pink slip over a decade ago. Travis Kelce has ring number 2, denying his brother a second ring, and he has the bragging rights over his brother, really. Mahomes has another ring. You know, Juju has one. Coming from the Steelers. Tony, after coming from the Giants in that trade, I mean, go on and on, but look, I'm just gonna blatantly say it because, you know, we know what we're in for the next few months. Chiefs won it, and happy for the players. But you know, Patrick Mahomes is going to get talked about a whole lot. A whole lot. And I get it. He plays butt off throughout these playoffs. And commend him for sticking it through this ankle injury, which, you know, probably got re-aggravated in the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, you know, he only has 2 rings. And, you know, it's ridiculous to put him in the GOAT conversation, really. And I won't say he's better than Aaron Rodgers. We can definitely agree that. I'd say he's better than Aaron Rodgers. You know, he's got 2, and that's better comparison for him as far as career goes instead of Tom Brady and the GOAT, who has 7. But nonetheless, you know, happy for Chiefs players and what they were able to accomplish this season. But yeah, it is what it is. Now I have to talk about Chiefs. I want to talk about the Eagles because they had a amazing season that should not be. Unfortunately, it'll go to the wayside because they weren't able to get it done. But with what the Eagles were able to accomplish as well this season, cannot be underestimated because, Jalen Hurts, for one, really opened my eyes, I'd say. He certainly upped his game this season. Now, we can credit that great roster they have and say it was them. But at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts had a very, very good season. And numbers he put up in the Super Bowl as well. Very, very good. And you just don't want that to go to the wayside. But Jalen Hurts, really props to him as well. But yeah, that offensive line, great. Age kind of short. That pass rush was very nullified to every bit. I mean, those receivers, defense, the way they were kind of able to save the course after being out physical by division rival Washington and keep it going. Now, with the injury to Hurts and Lane Johnson, losing to Dallas and New Orleans made it worrisome for the Eagles, but they were able to keep it going and they almost got it done. It just, thing happens in the end. It just happened. But great season for the Eagles as well, and it's going to be a little worrisome because, the thing you have to worry about a team not getting it done is obviously the turnover in the offseason. The Chiefs are a much younger team than Philly, and they're obviously more likely to have their whole team back from this season as far as the next. Whereas Philly, you got some questions. Every player on that team definitely looks to me like they still have a few more years in them. But you never know because we have surprise retirements all the time. But yeah, Fletcher Cox is getting older. Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey. Now, judging from what I saw this season, and I think everybody can agree, they have some years left in them, but you never know. But yeah, them, just curious how the turnaround is going to affect both teams, but we'll see. And last but not least, UFC 284. Go over a bit. First off, credit to Yair Rodriguez. he came to the UFC with some hype, being, making his first UFC fight in Mexico at UFC 180 when Werdum won the interim title. But Yair came in with this sort of flashy style, and then you were worried some for a while of could he fight, stay healthy and get some nice momentum going. And over his last few fights, he's been able to string some very good wins together. And now he is the interim light or featherweight champion. So kudos to him with a very good submission win over, again, Josh Emmett, who's been very solid in his last few fights as well. Main events between new UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev and featherweight champion Alexander the Great Volkanovski was a very good fight. Very good fight. Very clean. Very close fight. I'd say, Islam certainly had his way when it came to takedowns for a little bit, trying to get the pressure. We knew that was going to be a case, but Volkanovski is strong and he's game. He'll add some good shots on Makhachev, and even the takedowns that Makhachev got mostly did no damage. So I can see the gripe Volkanovski has, but ultimately the judge gave it. The judging can be very suspect as well for fighting. They have to work on that as well, but in the end they gave the nod to Makhachev, and despite a great last round from Volkanovski, but nonetheless, we'll see. Maybe a rematch is in store, but you don't want to hold up a division too much because got the lightweight division and he just crowned a interim champion for featherweight. So we'll see, but either way, kudos to both guys. On a very good main event. But nonetheless, that's the episode I have for you guys, episode 138. If you guys like this video, kick the like, leave a thumbs up in the corner. Help out the video, help out the channel, but excuse me. Nonetheless, thank you all. Be safe. See you guys next week. Adios. I'm Joe Love. Peace.